Hello, Happy New Year, my friends. I am happy to be among the first to wish you a happy and healthy 2022. My name is Emily Jarrett Hughes, and I live where the Mississippi and the Minnesota rivers meet in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And I'm a certified trainer and a certified healer, and I'm so happy to be here today and grateful to be here with you. Thank you for joining me for this moment to talk about Qigong to deepen our practice. So I'm very honored to be following last month's Qi Talk teacher was our beloved Master Lin. And he was talking about the energy of 2022. And that was so wonderful, so helpful from him. And so I really hope that you also had a chance to hear that talk. And I also hope that you'll be joining me, joining him, joining people from around the world tomorrow when the 7-day blessing begins. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year where I get to start morning and evening chanting with people around the world. The Qi field is so beautiful, so personally balancing and blessing and healing, and then also so healing for the world. I'm so excited to be living in these times, like when Master Lin talks about how we are moving into a time of great awakening. And that's so exciting. I've been leaning into this my whole life, and how much we are moving towards more cooperation and more interdependence. This is everything that I've been hoping to create in life. And it's a great thing to focus on. So we're thinking about how can we focus in the coming year on how Qigong practice so that we can really create these wonderful things in our lives. This whole time that we're in is full of so many challenges and changes. And so it's really encouraging us to be creative. We have to be creative. We have to find new ways to gather together and do all sorts of things. And we really have to redo kind of how we do everything. And I think that that's actually really exciting. Sometimes it's very frustrating that I'm constantly reinventing everything, but it's really exciting. I want to just share that excitement for the huge creative moment that we are sharing right now. So my talk today is about Qigong and creativity. And I want to say that I am a creative person, and so are you. Just like we're fond of saying in Qigong, I am a healer and so are you. That being creative is part of the essence of being part of creation. And I was inspired, one of my big thing that I want you to think about with me today is about how can Qigong be a creative practice? We talk a lot about Qigong as healing practice, as something to balance our body, or something we do to help other people heal, or a practice that's for spiritual awakening. But we could also think of it as an art form. And just try on with me what it opens up as a possibility when you think about Qigong also as an art form, as a creative process. And to do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about creative process and how Qigong has helped me with my creative process. And then I'm going to flip back to talking about that creative process in Qigong, and if that helps us kind of see what we're doing a little bit differently and inspire us to be creative love radiators in the world. So I'm a dancer. That's like a major creative art form that I'll talk about some when I'm doing here, big part of who I am. But I'm creative in so many ways. And I just want to make sure that you feel that creativity I'm talking about is a really broad definition. That making dinner is creative. Parenting, I'm a parent, is a very creative act. building your family, building your community is creative. I've been trained as a mediator and in nonviolence training, studied conflict resolution. That's a creative art. Um, Making anything happen, any kind of report, any building, all of these are different forms of creativity. So I hope that you will see yourself also in the creativity. So here's what I want to say about creativity. It has three main stages that I think are worth paying attention to, and each of them are invitations for growth. The first stage, I think, is the most familiar, and that's the getting in the flow. Getting in the flow where you feel like something, you might be writing something and it's almost like it's almost writing itself. Like it's just come alive and it's writing. For me, I'm a dancer, right? So I spend a lot of time learning how to move my body, learning particular steps to particular dances. So it's important for me to share what type of dance I do. While I grew up studying ballet, right now I concentrated in women's ritual dances from the Balkans, Greece, and Asia Minor. And particularly under the guidance and research of Laura Shannon is kind of my guiding teacher for the way I approach and study this dance. And so I'm learning folk dances, actually relatively simple ones on the outside. They're very rich on the inside. So there's a process of getting my foot in the right place at the right time. And then getting familiar with the rhythms and the music. I also am a singer, so I learn many of the songs. There's just a stage of learning, and it's awkward and it's clunky, and then eventually the dance starts to flow through me. I can move without thinking, and that's like a really exciting stage of the dance. What's happening then is the chi is flowing through me in the dance. So that's how I know I've learned to dance, is when I'm not just kind of going through the motions, but instead I feel great energy moving through me. So I'm coordinated. I'm not just like feeling like my hands and my feet are doing something different from each other, but I also, like when I'm in that flow, I feel like the earth energy is also moving through me, that I'm really part of all of nature as I'm moving. So that's the flow that, once you taste that, I want to do that in everything that I do. And this can be also just experienced with like cooking. It doesn't have to be like dancing, which many people think they can't do, but you can. Just like really feeling the energy of the ingredients and where they came from, and knowing how to cook into something delicious. That's a beautiful flow too. So there's many forms of this. So and this process of finding the flow requires getting out of your own way. What is not in the flow is going to show up. So this is the invitation in this first part of the process, is how do we find our flow? And how do we get out of our own way? And I noticed also when I danced in a dance company for a while, a folk dance company, I was probably the only one like really looking for that flow within the dances. And I really credit my Qigong training for teaching me where flow is, how flow moves, what I can hope for in flow. So that's really a beautiful, because you need to learn how to work with your limitations, with your energies, with what's happening. And then that has been really great a gift from Qigong, is to learn how to do that. So once I have flow, then I'm going to talk about revision. And revision, dreaded revision. My daughter is just starting. She's in middle school. She's just learning how to write a paper. The prospect of revision just sounds to her like horribleness. And I'll have to credit my partner, Elizabeth Jarrett Andrew, writes a lot about creative processes, written a whole book about the spiritual practice of revision in writing. And so she absolutely colors how I talk about these creative processes. revision does mean that we've put all this effort into learning something, and then it's something it's going to kind of come into greater refinement. I find this. I write a blog. I start with kind of a question or idea. I write. I go this way. I go that way. I have a whole bunch of stuff on the paper, but it needs to be revised. And what I'm looking for in the revision is to come to the heartbeat. What is really the heartbeat and the essence of this? And that's a beautiful process for which is inviting me to also come into refining my understanding of my heart and my essence and my connection to the Qi. For my dancing, part of this has happened with the dances that I learned are from a different place and a different time. And when they come with me to Minnesota and I dance them there, they are inherently changed. It's different there. And so that's an interesting experience of revision happening, just like being kind of forced upon us. And we all of us are experiencing circumstances forcing us to revise. And for the dance, I've had to really make sure I pay attention to, I know how the Qi can flow through. I know what makes the Qi work. And I will be making adjustments. And what matters is that the Qi still keeps flowing through the dances. That's my guidepost. That's the heartbeat for me. It's like is the Qi of the dances. And so sometimes I change something about the music. Sometimes I change something about how the group dances together, so that the Qi can flow given our kind of our context. And Master Lin, actually, he's a great example of a reviser, the way he has refined Qigong, this great lineage of Qigong, into something for our modern context that works best for us. So it's about finding that essence and refining our heartbeat. And that often means letting go and in writing, they'll talk about kill your darlings, which my daughter cringes at this expression. But sometimes you start with like an inspiration that you think you're so excited about, and you go from there. And then once you've made what you've made, that thing that you started with, that was your inspiration, actually no longer fits, and you need to let it go. And it takes trust in the greater flow and the greater picture to be able to let go in that way. And I think Qigong is such a great training for that. That practice of just letting ourselves go into the energy and learning that when we let go, we're not losing, we're not free falling, we're refining our energy into a greater alignment with the universe. So that's revision. A little bit about revision, right? There's so much to say about revision. And then there's a third stage in the creative process, and that is the release, sharing your work with the world. And that is it's a beautiful phase, and it can be a tricky phase. So for my dancing, here's a great example. Like, I grew up just loving how I feel when I dance. I was studying ballet as a kid, and I love that so much, and I want to share it somehow. And really, the only way that ballet is really shared in the world is on the stage. Maybe it's shared a little bit, maybe other ways, but that's the main way. And there's other problems that came up for me, injury and with dance, that I'll share a little bit later. But I also really realized that I was not feeling very satisfied with that way of sharing. That way of sharing the gift of the dance was not letting it all that was there kind of come through for me. But I actually fell in love with my with folk dance, was because it was then sharing this experience of dance in a really participatory way. And I fell in love with dancing with people, which I just think is so amazing. And that's how I've really, that's where I still perform sometimes, but I really dedicate myself to dancing with people. And here's what happens. I'm not just sharing the dance, but something new is created. There's actually a really sophisticated social order in a dancing circle in village dances. Who's at the front of the line? Who's second in the front of the line? On what occasion? Is it somebody's wedding? Is it um, related to somebody's family event? Who's at the end of the line? Is this a holiday? People may be lined up by family, by age, and there's a lot that happens as everybody is gathered and obliged to be together in this dance, that they are affirming the fabric, the social fabric among the circle in the dancing. And I realized that as much as I love the dance, I love the feeling of the dance, that my experience of sharing the dance and sharing the dancing community, that I was creating something else. That dance was going forward and creating relationships and community and a sense of interconnection. And that feeling, that feeling of sharing the dance and having that come, I wasn't feeling like the stage is much harder to really feel like you're creating that interconnection. And so I loved that that's how I fell in love with sharing my dance in the folk dance way. And then I realized I'm dinging, so I'm going to turn this off. My apologies. Okay, so releasing dance. So that's the example of dance. And anything put on a stage gets kind of elevated. It can be as simple as a meal. Making a meal and how you share it with somebody can be such a beautiful, sacred, healing act. Like you have not only created some delicious food that maybe reflects beautiful relationships with the land and the farmers, but you're also creating a beautiful relationship with the people that you're sharing your food with. And that's a whole other stage of creation. And it's the most beautiful when this is a gift. Like this is like a time when the gift you've received and what you've created then becomes a gift into the world. When you realize that all these creations, like what's so fun about creating is that flow, and that flow is a gift. And then it's going to travel out through you also as a gift. Sometimes we forget that. And it can be much more about like, I need you to tell me that my food is amazing, or that I'm an amazing dancer, or, feed my ego. Tell me it was worth it, and that's not a gift anymore. The best is when it's a gift. And that's when something beautiful is created forward that will keep moving forward. So this is a whole other phase of creation, and that has its own discipline of like learning how to work with that gift, that give and flow. So that is I guess I want to say one more thing as I look at my note. That the one way that Qigong can really help with this stage is that Qigong can really help us, support us in purifying our energy. To really learn how to connect beyond, connect with our soul, and correct that larger sense of the pure self that then doesn't get us snagged in the natural, sometimes just ego need for reassurance in what we give in the world. So that part of Qigong practice really supports being able to give beautiful gifts, that purification of our souls. Okay, so that's a little bit of an arc of how I think about creativity. The kind of three important phases of it and how many different forms of creativity there are. And so now I want to go to Qigong as a creative art form. And let's look at Qigong kind of through like maybe it has these, what happens when we look at Qigong as having similar stages. And one of the so let's start with getting in the flow, this generative stage. This is a big part of where we begin. Why I came to Qigong. I need to get unstuck. Um, we begin by practicing every day. This is so important to have that regular practice to keep your energy moving. And where you practice, and we need to sometimes get kind of creative with where that practice can be. Maybe we can have a regular time in the morning. This is, of course, best to have a regular time every day. We really train our chi that way. But also, we can squeeze in little bits throughout the day. Like maybe whenever you walk up the stairs, you tap your eyebrows, or anytime you're at a traffic light, that's when you breathe a particular way, or you chant while driving. There's so many ways to just find a little way to insert a little bit of Qigong practice. And it requires a little imagination, a little bit of play, but it can really help bring a sense of flow back into your day. In those moments, you're reminded, I'm in the flow. So I'm going to talk about four main tools we have for being in the flow: movement, breath, sound, and visualization. And starting with movement, this is our foundation, that we practice moving with the five elements. Mastering that the movement of yin and yang, and how it has different ways of being in balance with each other that we experience through the five elements. And in that practice, we'll begin with just finding a way to feel coordinated. There's so many little subtleties with the movement that we might spend quite a while still feeling like we're finding, like, oh, this is what the pine tree quality is. Oh, this is what it is to lean from the elbows. This is how, especially to remember, drawing the chin back, lengthening the back of the neck. They all take a lot of practice, and they gradually become habits. Gradually, these movements aren't just something that we're thinking of, but positions where we really feel the flow. We just naturally want to be in them because we feel more flow and alive. And also the movements, they can become something that we do without consciously making ourselves moving. We are just in the flow, in the vibration of these movements. And so that's when we reach that, then it's a great example of the movement becoming like a really good paintbrush in our toolbox of art supplies, of Qigong art supplies. And so similar with breath. Breath is different because we breathe all the time without thinking about it. And with Qigong, we bring consciousness back to breath at first, to notice it, to feel the flow of the breath in the body, the flow of the breath as a way that we respire with the universe. And at first it feels like it really takes attention to look at our breath. As soon as I bring attention to my breath, I realize all the ways I'm not breathing, or that I think I'm just doing a simple physical movement, that and not remembering that there's a kind of chi breathing exchange with the universe that I can be doing with every breath to build and download more beautiful chi in my body and to release everything in my body. And with time, this practice of breathing that once we didn't think about, then we had to think about again. Eventually, we don't have to think about it again. It goes back to not having to think about, but now without thinking, we are always breathing with the universe. And we have this artful breath, this ability to breathe through even really sticky situations. So, and the breath also carries sound. I love chanting so much. And chanting can have a similar learning curve. We begin with learning the sounds. Many of us don't speak Chinese, but we're offered these chants in Chinese. So at first, we're learning Ong Male Be Me Ong, just finding the shape of those words in our mouth. And then with time, we don't have to think about the words. Time, we might feel the flow of it just more through our body. Just that the singing of that song just kind of flows through, just so like this beautiful wave, that you just are on the flow of the thousands of people who've chanted that chant for thousands of years. That's that beautiful flow that we can tap into with that chanting. And that particular chant, is also connecting our heart to the heart of the universe. We feel that flow. And the chanting may change. It may slow down, may lose the melody. And we talk about the chanting coming into the true voice. And that also then is like becomes another one of our paintbrushes or tubes of paint and our chi art box. So we have this beautiful ability to craft and create with sound, and that finding that authentic voice that's connected to this great flow, this vibration from all these people and with all the universe. And the fourth foundational tool for our creation with Qigong is visualization. This is so creative, so fun, so creative. And it can be just so surprising what you visualize. So we train, and as much as it can be so creative, I think it's wonderful that we train the visualization too. Like when we are practicing the 5 elements, we train ourselves to visualize, to experience emotion. We train ourselves to connect with color. These are beautiful founding building blocks that are really useful in our visualization. And as we get more playful with it, sometimes I feel like I'm visualizing healing from myself or someone else. Can feel like I'm kind of gardening, like I might, instead of thinking I need to strengthen the kidney energy, it might just pop up more as, I feel this beautiful warm spring. I'm thinking of like a warm spring that I love near where my sister-in-law had a house. Feeling that beautiful, warm, bubbling, warm spring flowing through and seeing the greening and how soothing that is. And I just picture that in their body. I remember once I was doing a healing for somebody, and it was like they were a bog, and I was, bogs can burp. They have all this air underneath the mat of plants growing on the top of the bog, and sometimes they release a big bubble of air, and so it was it really made me laugh when I found myself kind of like visualizing that there was a burping bog inside somebody's body. But it was a way of connecting with the energies of the five elements and all the systems and visualizing them um, uh, kind of in fun ways and using that for our healing. And there's just so much we can give ourselves permission to do in visualization. It's such an important tool, such an important tool. What I love actually so much about Spring Forest Qigong is that it's actually not just creative, but really teaches us about how creativity happens. Like Spring Forest Qigong is so fundamentally creative. Like this is what we're doing when we are doing a healing session with somebody, is we are going back to the void, to that very creative place where yin and yang are come together. Everything is created by the consciousness that brings yin and yang together in different times, in different places, different speeds. And so we're developing that skill to go to that place in the void so that we can recreate health and beauty and a beautiful, happy lives in that place. And so not only is Spring Forest Qigong teaching us how to work with that creative dance of yin and yang. We begin with the five elements and learning about it there, and we never stop. There's always more in understanding how yin and yang come together. And we also more and more develop our heart, the connection between our heart and the universe. And that's our window to connect with the higher dimensions. We talk about the 7 dimensions, and especially that place of the void where things are created and recreated. And we're given this map in Spring Forest Qigong for how to get there, which I just find so empowering. And so it's so creative. This is not an art form where you get to hang it on the wall. And so nobody's going to give you like the nice satisfaction of like, yummy dinner or yummy, what a pretty picture in the same way. But it is so, so creative. It's so, so beautiful. Okay, so this is all in the space here of talking about, all I've been talking about here in Qigong and creativity is how Qigong can help us be in that flow of life, get into that void. But I want to talk about revision. Again, that revision, maybe not always everybody's friend, but it's actually so juicy and wonderful. Like erase whatever negative thoughts you had about revision. It's really very exciting. And in Qigong, you may notice at first that we're starting to revise our lives. That some might change what you eat, how you spend your time, revising your relationships, your work. It's a beautiful one-way ticket. It's a beautiful revision, and there's kind of no going back. And in another way, there's a revision where we're bringing our spirit in line with our soul, getting our ego more and more in line with our pure essence. And that is a beautiful process of revision, of aligning ourselves more and more with our heart and the guidance that's there. And this is, sometimes we fixate. I notice sometimes people fixate on certain things. I want to have this goal. And I had that own experience, for example, when I was in high school and I had been studying ballet and I had this injury that I could not find my way around. And I was really stuck because it was kind of ballet or bust for me. And that was not, I think, skeletally my body is not made for what I was hoping to have happen. And took a long time, but here I am still within life built around movement, which includes Qigong and dance. I am still dancing. I'm actually still even more true to what I loved about dance, but it's a different form. And so many things kind of came in alignment that way. And sometimes there's always, um, you might be 80 and think, maybe I want to be an opera star, but bodies at age 80 really don't. That's very, 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 very hard to be an opera star starting at that age. There's limitations, but there are things that are possible. So this is where I want to say we've learned how to be in the flow. We've learned how in the beginning to set our intention, say our purpose. And it's more than just the purpose we set ourselves. There is a call and response that our purpose is like in dialogue with our soul purpose. Sometimes the purpose of everything that we do may need revision to come more and more in alignment with our soul purpose. And there's ways that our masters and the universe also are bringing us into more and more alignment. So even though I say my purpose, set my intention multiple times throughout my day, when I wake up, before I practice, I go to bed, it's always subtly evolving and becoming more and more refined. And that's because that's good. It's not that I'm wishy-washy. It's because I'm in dialogue with the universe and with my master and becoming more refined in how I do it. And it's becoming more and more aligned with the heartbeat of what I'm doing. So this is the same process I was talking about in writing something, getting more refined to the heart of it. And this is also a process that a creative process we're going to when we are being transformed in a beautiful way, refined, and more aligned with our hearts. Really important in this revision stage is yes, I think I said this, but I just want to reiterate, is the master's energy. That they're there to support and guide. And this is also something you can be creative with and how you engage with and play with. Play like it doesn't help to have your master up like way high up on a pedestal. It's really hard to relate to your master way up there. We still want to connect with a master who has a really high vibration that will really help us raise our vibration. And we approach them still with really great respect, but come closer so you can really feel their breath. and imagine, take a walk with your master with your visualization somewhere beautiful. Draw with them, write with them, and play with that so they can help you with this process of refinement. So then we're going to come to the third phase, and that is the release. And as we practice Qigong, we might become more and more aware that everything we do, every word we speak, how we move through a room, everything matters. So we realize that everything is a release, is an expression of our Qi. And I think the four main traits that express our Qi in the world might summarize in these foundational words of Spring Forest Qigong: love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness. And these qualities are really fruits of the what I receive through the previous stages of the Qigong process. I've certainly, I watch my nephews, I have little nephews, and they're trying to learn how to be kind. It's hard. and it, and I've certainly tried to be compassionate, but the times that I've been most compassionate are times when it's not even something that I'm trying to do. It's more that I have received so much compassion through my practice, through being in the flow and being refined, really purifying and refining my heart, that I've then, this gift of compassion just flows through me. So we're coming again back to gift. I think that I love my Qigong practice. I love teaching Qigong. I love this opportunity, this moment to talk about what it means for me. I love opportunities to help people with their healing and practice groups. And even as many people as I connect with that way. There's still many people who really don't care, that I love, that are in my life. And that's it's not their thing, maybe for now in this moment. So while they will maybe don't really care what I'm doing when I go off and do my Qigong practice, they do care that they notice that it makes me more loving, more compassionate, more forgiving and kind. They do feel that. They do notice that. And that's a gift that I can allow to flow through me to them. And it's a gift that I can give in a healing. I can, when I'm sending healing energy to someone, sharing my love, my compassion. And beautiful things can happen then when that's received. That's where beautiful healing miracles can be ignited. And maybe not. We don't know what happens. We just give as a gift. And so just like we don't rely on being flattered about our meal or our dance performance or our book, don't need to be flattered about our chi. We just share it and let it be released into the world as a gift. And it will be picked up and never wasted. No love is ever wasted. I know that we're looking at a year where there's so much creative potential. And I'm so excited about that. And I'm also aware that there's going to be some challenges and some bumps. And I think, well, how can we create this world with more love, more kindness, more caring, compassion, and forgiveness? And I think that's not going to be something that we force into the world. It's going to be something that we give as a gift. And this can be our creation, like it's not just something that we wish for in the world, but also you can think about this is something you're creating and releasing. And if it gives you more play and lightness, to think of it as an art form, as in addition to everything else, please take that. And I also just encourage you, as you've set your list of your intention for the year, especially if you're doing the 7-day blessing, it's really wonderful to come with that list of intentions that you have that you want the energy of the year to support. And you probably have things that you are wanting to create in the year. I encourage you to bring the lens of these 3 phases to that, to think about, like you may think, oh, I really want to get to making this happen. And to think about it as making that happen as I want the flow to come through there, and what will it take to get the flow to flow through what I want to have happen? What will need to get out of the way? How can I support the flow? And also be mindful that it's not going to only be about getting into the flow, but there will be a refinement process that you're invited to come more and more into the connection with your heart and with the heartbeat of what your project is. Like that process that you're going to go through to get more and more connected to the heart of what you're creating is going to bring you more and more into your heart. And think about, like, so with what your goal is for this year, can you picture what is being invited for you with that process? And then also picturing how what when you've created what you wanted to create, when it's going out into the world, invite you to really see that as a gift moving, and to practice purifying yourself so that it can be that gift and not about you, but about the flow, and that something new is going to be created by your creation going into the world. So we are together love radiators. I love that expression in Spring Forest Qigong. And together we'll have our own goals for what we want in the year. And then I think I love sharing with you that we have the goal of creating a world without pain and suffering. A world where there's a healer in every home, and a world without pain and suffering. It's beautiful, beautiful vision that we are creating together. I'm so happy to be with you in this creative process and looking forward to going into the year with you with that. So I love you. Thank you so much for sharing your ears with me today, listening with your heart to me. And I wish you a beautiful, healthy, very creative, healing year 2020. Thank you so much. Bye for now.